everybody. So have you been a stock trader for the past year and realized your portfolio went not? Or you are currently working in finance and deciding that is not a good career choice for you and you want to into tech? So for today's topic, I want to share a little bit about my experience in the interview process and how many types of interview that I had before, and so that I can give you a little bit of sense of what you should prepare for and what is the expectation for the candidate. So for my first interview is with a startup. So mainly we're gonna have the first round is you're gonna have an interview with two software engineers. Basically it cover a lot of different topics, your previous experience, like what kind of programming that you know, and what is your job experience and any transferable skill that you could bring to the table for this role. So technically for the startup, usually the company can range around 10 to 50 people. So usually the hiring process won't be that hectic, but then it can focus a lot on the technical skill that they're looking for. So for example, if you are in web development, people tend to ask you about React, Angular, and JavaScript, and your understanding about fundamental in web development, what is HTTP and what is the endpoint and what kind of technology that you use. Either you are familiar with front end, back end, or full stack. That is the first experience. Those types of interview will be pretty good if you actually know the technology itself. But I think it's a bit harder for the people who just graduate from university. But if they don't learn any web development in React or any in the market role that the company is looking for. So the second type of interview that I experienced is actually the data structure and algorithm interview. I think those are the hardest one to pass actually, because so there's two scenarios. Either you are a person who just graduate from the university, or you go to a boot camp for 3 months and apply for a job. So those so for this kind of interview, technically it will be really easier for the candidate has a university background, because they have a lot of exposure to solving algorithm question. What is data structure? What kind of data structure that can apply to the question they're asking for. So for example, reverse a string, reverse a linked list, and implement binary tree in the question. This is the types of difficult question for people who just took a 3 months bootcamp, because usually 3 month bootcamp will teach you a lot about web development, full stack, backend, but they don't prepare you well enough for the data structure interview. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind, that you have to study a little bit extra. And from the experience that I asked around, is that if my friend already has the university background, they usually take 3 to 6 months to preparing for algorithm question. And yeah, the process can be really intimidating, because basically you don't actually build a website or build an application at all, but you just try to solve individual question. It's like you branding your SAT. So the third type of interview I see in those interviews that I have been through is code review. So let's say at work, if you are a little bit senior level, you will have ability to read others junior software developer code. So this is actually test your ability for observation, adaptability, and recommendation. So you have to being asked look at the code really quickly in like a minute or two, and then you can give any recommendation, what kind of improvement and what is the incorrect things in the code base. So I think this is also like the hardest but also the easiest code, is because that you don't have actually writing any code in front of your interviewer. But the hardest part is you actually has to know the language really good, like what is missing in the code base. and then give any recommendation from that. So for example, in JavaScript and TypeScript, there's a lot of differences. But if you're only familiar with JavaScript and then you have an interview in TypeScript, you have a really hard time to actually understand it. So usually for this question, you need to be prepared for really good skill in full stack, because sometimes they're gonna ask you give a recommendation from the API until the front end and what is the HTML that they're looking for. This is really also test your ability to communicate pretty effectively, because if you say something wrong but then you're not sure if it's right or wrong, you have to tell the interviewer what is your thought process, and if they have a lot of leading question, they can help you to solve a problem. That would be easier. But then if they try to trick you asking really hard question, then it's really uncomfortable for you to, and also like the stress at the interview gonna actually not very good when you just have like 10 seconds look in the code base and try to read a recommendation. Your answer can be like all over the place. So another types of interview that I experienced is like a take-home assessment. Let's say if you have a knowledge in React or React Native and mobile app development, you would be asked to write a really simple app, like for example writing a music player app, or to show all of the transaction of the company in a set period of time. This kind of interview usually you have 5 to a week to complete assessment. It could be really good because you don't have a time pressure. Look at the interviewer and try to figure out things in a really short period of time, but it also is really time consuming. So usually this take home assignment can take you about 1 hour to 4 hours or even 8 hours, if that is like the expectation of the job is really high. So this skill actually require you to know how you can read all the code from the projects, but also will be able to connect the backend and the front end. I had this experience doing this interview, but it can also like, it doesn't matter you got a job or not, but also give you a lot of good opportunity so that you can like reassessing your skill, and you can actually learn something from this take-home assessment, because you have all of the resource from Google that you can looking for the skill, and take all of the time you need, or even like ask a question. This skill is good if you already know the stack of the company that they're looking for, but unfortunately some of the skill they are looking for but you don't have it, it's gonna give you a really hard time to complete the take-home assessment too. So another types of interview would be 1 hours of like 1 hours of coding assessment. But usually these apply for like a big tech company, either like Google, Amazon, or some FANG company, I would say. These are actually help the company to eliminate process really quickly. Let's say you have 2 hours solving 2 hard algorithm question, but it's also test your ability to work under pressure for 2 hours. This skill asks you to, you don't have to have an interviewer in front of you, but they test your ability to solve the problem, because they try to shortlist like thousands of candidates for just a one posting job. So there you actually know algorithm really good. Or you also need to know like some SQL and database system design question to pass this interview. Yeah, I think that is all for today. The types of interview that I can talk a little bit about, but also maybe I'm going to also give out some tips for you. Be prepared. Like for myself, I prepare myself for the technology that I'm working at work, but also definitely taking a lot of time and commitment just to learn those data structure algorithm question. If you want to get into big tech company like Microsoft, Amazon, and Netflix, Yeah, it's usually take a lot of time and commitment. And don't forget to have fun with the process. I know it's pretty painful sometimes because you had like 10 interview and like 8 of it you don't get it, but it's like just a process. It's like you try to lift weight. At first you feel really hard, you feel exhausted. For the first day you try to, maybe you want to give up, but time over time, when you build the strength and your knowledge base, and everything seemed to be easier. But also I would say, other than these technical skills, you also to have to like improve a lot of communication skill during the interview. Let's say there's a lot of people is really good in technical skill, but they had a hard time trying to communicate those skills forward. So these are skill is pretty good that you can either have a mentor who can do a mock interview with you, asking a friend, or just either like recording yourself. Yeah, have fun guys. I hope you can ace your interview really quickly, and have fun with the journey finding a new job and moving to tech, and wish you guys all the success moving forward. Bye bye.